Welcome to AMIcast, podcast about Amiga computers. I'm your host, Krzysztof Radzikowski, but call me Krzysztof or Radzik. This is number 26 of AMIcast, and I come back after a lot of time that I was in real life, so basically no time to recording, and now I have the great guest because we were preparing us for this interview, I think 2-3 months, and now is here the Steve Jones, and the guy is the story of the guy is really big, and I don't know if the one episode is enough even to compress it. But at the beginning, hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And thanks for. I'm sorry, it was largely my fault with the delays, but as you said earlier on, real life gets in the way sometimes. And but no, this should be good fun.
Yeah, it will be for sure, because we will talk about, of course, AROS, because I was inspired by your YouTube channel. It's great, let's say, tutorial how to start with AROS in real hardware and so on. But I think we will talk as well about the classic Amiga, of course, about Video Toaster in 2000, because there is another great movie. You have a lot of great movies on your channel, and I think pronounce this Siamese, yes?
You got it right. That's a Siamese System.
So this is the system that is maybe not so known or popular now, at least. So this was something that was hybrid or connection between Amiga and PC. So I think it's a lot of topics here, but to start for the first minutes, how the story, the beginning of your computers and then Amiga, or tell us something about IT life and why Amiga.
Okay, so basically, when I got my first Amiga, I think it was 1986. I can be a bit hazy on years, but it was about 1987. Well, let's go back a bit further than that. The Amiga 1000 came out in the UK around 85, 86. And I saw it in a shop window, totally fell in love because I had always loved computers, and I think I had a Spectrum at the time. And I'd absolutely love computers, and I still do. And I saw this thing, and I knew it was the most groundbreaking thing I'd ever seen, but I couldn't afford it. It was just too much money. Sorry about that. That's going to go off occasionally. I absolutely fell in love with it straight away. But of course I couldn't afford it. So a year later, I think it was a 500 came out in 87. I saw that, and as soon as that came out, I could afford that, so I jumped in and I bought one. And I bought one from a local shop. And as it turned out, there was a developer in there, and he had a 1000, and I had my 500 and so on. And he said, I know you love the 1000, don't you? I said, yeah, I really love them. He said, do you want to buy mine? So I bought his 1000 with a 40 meg hard drive, which seemed huge at the time. And I basically and I've still got that 1000 to this day. So we got talking, and his brother had designed. Now, it's very important people understand the Checkmate 1500. I did not design. It was, and I forget the guy's name because it's like 30 years ago, which is a bit of a shame. But I met his brother who was designing this new case, which was the 1500, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. So, long story short, we met the developer was working on a 16-bit sampler with a guy in London called James Campbell, who turned out to be my partner. We set a company up called Checkmate Digital, and the idea was to promote and launch this Checkmate 1500, because at the time there was the 500 and then there was a 2000, and the 2000 was ridiculously expensive. It was like a couple of £1,000, before you add bits. It was an awful lot of money. So we had the idea of you take your 500 or buy a new 500 and you build it into this, and you can add an accelerator card. We had one slot in it, so you could put a SCSI RAM card in it. You could put an internal hard drive in it. You could put a flicker fixer in it, because we had you could have a video slot, and then you really could make a nice little system. But it was a nice, neat little computer. And we sold a few hundred, but we came to the attention of Commodore. Commodore wasn't very happy. I mean, I don't want to go too much in detail, because this is going to hopefully, Dave Pleasance has said he's going to put this in his book, the full story. But the bottom line was I was invited to Commodore. It didn't go as I planned, because they were not very happy. Now, this wasn't Dave. Dave was out of the country at the time. They were not very happy. Things were said, and they basically, I don't know if you know the story of the 2000 in England. What they did was they made the Commodore 1500 afterwards. Yeah, and what they did was they took 2000s and they put a 1500 sticker on, all right? And that was just to confuse the market. Now, that didn't hurt us. All that did was it created an awful lot of publicity, and that was even better. But what did hurt us was they slashed the price of their 1500. And they dropped it down to $999, I think it was. So we were not that competitive then. Of course, you could for more or less the same money. So that pretty much killed that product. It still sold, but they thought we were selling thousands, and we were selling hundreds. We was doing all right out of it. But that's that story. Then that fell apart, and I set up another company on my own, and I started selling cases. I called them power stations, and the idea of the power station was I would go into a local PC hardware suppliers, distributors, and buy a case, and in those days they came with a power supply. So I buy that for £20, and I managed to get the power connectors. I made a cable, plugged it into the back of the 500, no, I think it was a 1200. It would work on all of them. Plug it into the back and it would power it. So we called it the power station. But because you had that big tower as well, or desktop, whichever people wanted, you could put drives in it. So people would put in hard drives in it, SCSI drives in it. And I made quite a bit of money out of that. After that, it gave me the idea, well, we've got this case. Why don't we put a PC motherboard in it? Because I got this SCSI networking working. And I met... I spoke to James, and we made a little card that goes inside, and it plugged into one of the PC slots, and it allowed you to switch video modes from Amiga mode to PC mode instantly using the Amiga M. So we had that, and I got in touch with Paul Nolan, if you remember from Photogenics. Okay, so he wrote that software for me, and he wrote some file transfer software. So basically you mounted all the PC drives onto the Amiga's into the Amiga's operating system, which worked beautifully, and you could cut and paste text, and there were some nice little tools in that.
So something like CrossDOS, or it was using?
No. It was more like it was proper networking. It was more like Samba.
Okay.
Before Samba existed. I don't know when Samba came out, but it was that kind of thing. So the PC's drives mounted as Amiga drives, and you could just drop files into it, and that worked beautifully. And then I said to him one day, I said, you know what I'd really like is if you can create some way of making Amiga's windows or screens appear on the PC. And so we discussed it. Excuse me. And then he went away, and then about 3 weeks later, he called me back. He called me back. You may have to pause this.
Okay.
Can you put? Is this completely?
I can cut it later. So.
I know I suffer with asthma, and I think I'm about to go into one. We'll see how it goes. So he called me over to his place, and he lived about 5 miles away, and he showed me on the screen he'd run this software on the PC in the Amiga, and then what it did, it opened up a window on the PC display, the same size as the Amiga's display. And there were boxes in it. And the boxes, because it was very rough, and it was just square boxes for the windows, and he could move those around. So obviously what he'd done is I could see instantly he'd made this work. Now what happened then, it turned into a complete remote desktop system before remote desktop, and but it worked over serial cable, and it was quite fast over serial. But then we went to network, and he put it over TCP/IP, and then it was just lightning fast. So that basically meant that we had the PC became, not only was it you could share the drives, you could run all your Windows software, you could switch screens and use your Amiga display, or you had an RTG display like a graphics card now, displayed on the PC, running at pretty damn fast. I mean, he was using photogenics demo, and it was all working just as it would be the graphics card. So we had that running. Then that was great, and we sold quite a few of them because I had a distributor in Germany called Eagle, who were great, and they sold quite a lot of them. But then not long after, I met Mick Tinker, and you probably know Mick Tinker from Boxer. He did a whole load of they did a lot of stuff that was in the background people didn't know about. He made his own custom Amigas that would be used for point of sale units, that kind of thing, and he was doing quite well with that. But he turned up one day at one of the shows, and he had this card, and the card had basically a card, a bit of interfacing, but a 6840 smacked in the middle of it. So I knew instantly why, because he just went, have a look at this, and I knew instantly what he was thinking. We could put that into a PC. It's got a 6840. And then with RTG, you could then use that a bit. It's a bit like a Vampire now. If you think about the Vampire, it's a bit like that because it's a 6840 chip, and then the RTG would use, our libraries would seamlessly integrate with the graphics card of the PC, and you get the best of both worlds. Now, my mind was, once you got that card in there, you wouldn't need the Amiga because it's all the code's running on 6840. And all the graphics and sound and everything is being retargeted to the PC operating system. So you could run Amiga software, PC software, and Macintosh software on one box, which is why Gateway approached us, and we went out to see Gateway in America, and we had a deal with them to make these boards. So we thought we was going to do really well, and they wanted to sell these. Because it's actually on the story, I noticed that there was a story that was put out, and it was actually mentioned on there. And the card was to go into their PCs, their high-end ones. They didn't, to be honest, I knew they didn't care about the Amiga side. I knew that. But what they wanted to be able to do was to be able to run the Macintosh software. Because at the time, it was before Steve Jobs came back and said, no, get rid of it. Stop the third party. And so they were still open to using it. So we could take the ROMs and we could run Mac software. So in my head, it was a step to having a multi-operating system computer with the Amiga's operating system running on it, sharing all resources, the Mac running on the Amiga. And then long-term, I always wanted to port, I've said this at the time, and I'll say it again, I wanted it to be the engine that ported Amiga operating system to x86. Because I knew at the time, x86 was going to wipe the market. It was just going to be massive. You didn't have to have any brains for that, because as soon as Windows 95 came out, people saw what was potentially possible. The x86 is not pretty, but it's brute force and ignorance, okay? And it was going to be the future. And I wanted to get the Amiga on that chip. Sadly, Gateway pulled the plug. They sold the Amiga off, and they pulled the plug from us, wiped me out completely. And then it was, I kind of left, and quite a few years later, many years later, I came back and I was just having a look around Amiga stuff, because I literally threw out everything to do with Amiga. I threw it all out, but I kept my 1000, and I pulled my 1000 out of the garage, and I set it all up again and got it working, and it was so nice to have it working again that I started looking around, and then I found AROS, which was basically where I wanted to be with the card. They'd already done it. So I obviously jumped in, and I wanted to get involved. I sponsored a lot of development work, as you may or may not be aware. I sponsored some drivers for the HD audio. I paid for all that. They bought it back off the license off me, because they bought the license off me anyway, because I wanted it to go open source. I also paid for the Intel Atom graphics support. I paid for lots of bits and pieces to get it. So you could, so for example, your listeners can't see this. I'm holding a little Aspire laptop netbook, and it's fully supported. That was the idea. And then I did a thing with a project called the Amiga, which was based on the same Intel Atom chip. And it was a little board, made a nice little silent computer. Ran on an x86, ran beautifully. It was absolutely wonderful. So to me, AROS, I've always considered. Now, I love, and I will say this. I mean, I've talked to the twins and everyone involved with the other operating systems, and I love all the operating systems. I'm passionate about AROS because of my history.
Okay.
The other operating systems, because I missed the blue-red thing. I missed all that, so I had no idea what was going on there. So my love is always the classics and AROS, but equally, I think the other's great. Now, I still to this day think AROS is the best for the future because it's fully open source. Anyone can play with it. I mean, some of Morphos was built with it. I'm sure there's some stuff maybe that I don't know if they've used Amiga OS, but all that code is there for people to use and experiment with. I mean, look at the Vampire now. There's a 68K version of AROS. There's even though the AROS ROM is not as quick or as efficient as the classic ROMs because they've all been converted to C. So it kind of suffers a bit in performance. But when you get something like the Vampire, which has got a ton more performance, there's good potential there. So I still think, and I still run the classic ROMs on my Amigas, obviously. But so I do like AROS, and I continue to support it. I mean, but there you go. So that's a little bit of a pot history from there to now, and why I chose AROS. I mean, I think it's fairly clear that you can see that I wanted an Amiga on x86 in the mid 90s. I think it was 96, something like that, when Gateway bought it, and I wanted to do it then. But that didn't happen. So we are where we are now.
So maybe if we are now in the AROS story, so we basically jump 30 years of your story, but you already told something about the Vampire. So my question is, do you think maybe the something like combination of AROS and the Vampire can be somehow, let's say, future for classic Amiga, or maybe the Amiga guys that they want something, let's say, Motorola-ish to have, or something, not the AROS on the pure Intel, you know what I mean, I hope.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. So the Vampire's an interesting one because, and I'm actually going to do a video all about this, and I'm taking ages on it, get my thoughts together. But there's a lot of people don't like the Vampire. They say because it's not original.
Yep.
Okay. And I kind of my opinion in the short version on the Vampire is this. I believe. See, I was never a fan of AGA. It was too little, too late for me. Because I started right at the beginning, and ECS was fantastic, but I was brought up on the whole thing of AAA, and we knew you had to have 24-bit graphics, 16-bit. Well, I don't think 16-bit sounds that important, but you needed the 24-bit graphics display. And AGA was, whilst it was good, and I've used it a lot because we used to do big shows, presentations where you'd have a 4000 sitting there and it would run everything, and it was good, and it was good, but it was, in my opinion, it was too little, too late, because the VGA cards were just ridiculously fast, and then you had 3DFX come out not long later, and you couldn't compete. Now, my opinion is this: that the Vampire is, I've got one in my 2000 now, and it allowed me to take out 2 or 3 cards out of the slots and release those cards to put other bits in. And it's faster than my old 060. The graphics is light years faster than my Cybervision, because it's internal. So if we forget the AGA emulation, no, oh God, we didn't want to say that. Right, if we forget the AGA part of it, then mine is on 2.5 at the moment, and it's exactly what I wanted. I've got a 6860 chip, or they call it 6880 because it's got extensions, and I've got a 24-bit graphics system, and I can still run all my Amiga modes through my monitor whenever I want. So to me, it's the best of all worlds. I can't think of anything better. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, the new version 3, I think it's going to be.
4. It's standalone, yeah?
No, I mean the cores.
The core, we are rating.
Will give AGA chip compatibility. Now, of course, as soon as you use those modes, that's not running on the Amiga. That's running on this card. And some of the people are saying, yeah, but it's not running on the Amiga. Well, your Amiga didn't have AGA, so it can't. All the other modes can still run. So I think, personally, I think it's... I think it's the best thing that the Amiga's ever had since the video toaster. Let's put it like that, period. I just really do believe that. There's an argument about the 6860. Oh, they've... no, they can't do it because it's 68. It's different. It's different. Well, yeah. And I tried to... I'm going to put this in the video. Basically, the 68,000 came out. It's a beautiful chip. Absolutely beautiful chip. The 6820 and 30 came out, and half the software didn't work. It was incompatible with the 68,000. Of course it's incompatible. So when the 6840 came out, that was incompatible with a lot of software. Yep. And then when the 6860 came out, that was incompatible with a lot of software. The difference was they were all developed by Motorola, which was fine. Unfortunately, Motorola, I think now just is a brand name for Google. Doesn't exist, and the 68K is, from what I believe, and I could be wrong, I believe it's dead. Okay, so now what's happened is the Vampire or the Apollo team have taken on the challenge of rebuilding it from scratch, completely accurate chip implementation, let's call it that, of a 6860, and are adding lots of extra bits if you want to use them. So it's a progression. Now, a lot of people are getting very upset about that. I said, well, do you want progress or don't you? I mean, I don't play games. The only game I play on my Amiga is probably Lemmings. But I'm not interested in games. I've got slated ones because I don't play games. I don't understand that. I always used it for real things. So to me, it's not... I'm not saying I could do modern tasks with it because I'm a developer. But I develop our internet software. So I couldn't use the Amiga for that, but I can use it for fun and I get tons of pleasure out of it. So I think for the future, it's given the classic world a real lift, an absolute lift, because now people can continue to enjoy it, their old machines, and if they want a new one, they'll be able to buy the new one. Now, I will upset people now. Did you see my video that I did with this?
Raspberry Pi, yeah.
Yeah, 90,000 hits so far on that. I'm a massive believer, and I was tongue-in-cheek when I said this is the best Amiga ever. But my point was that this to me is even better than the Vampire because it costs £50 to build that.
Yep.
So people who maybe had an Amiga in the old days or are learning about it, and retro and vintage is massive. They can come into it either with this or they can use their PC with Amiga forever, get their interest. If they actually want to then build actual hardware, then they can step up and they can buy into the Vampire or maybe buy an old Amiga and play around with it. And of course, we obviously still have, on top of that, once they come in, we have all these different flavors now. So we've got Amiga OS 4, which is fantastic. I mean, the developers know what I think about it, and I think it's an amazing piece of software. And I think the same Amorphos. I mean, whichever one you like, they're both amazing. But it goes without saying, sadly, the hardware for Amiga OS is very expensive. But fingers crossed when Trevor gets his drivers done, Tabor is coming out.
Yep.
And then I think that's going to change things. I think that's really, really going to help. And it can be fascinating because I want to put a Tabor next to the Vampire and see what the performance difference is.
Yeah, I think this. I was expecting this year, New Year. It can be the something like the maybe not fight, but the play between the Vampire and the new Tabor, because the price is more or less the same.
Yeah,
and this is two things for different things, but basically the money talks at the end of all. This is really important. If you can spend £400 probably or something, it's better than £2,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's because there's so many ways you can enjoy the Amiga. I mean, this is what I think is fantastic. I mean, people can come in if they want to go classic. They can start with this, or they can start with Amiga Forever, or they can just build like I did a scrapyard PC with AROS. There's so many ways to get into enjoying the operating system, enjoying the community. So they can come in many ways, and then they can step up as they go. But I mean, I tell everyone, some people look down on this and say, no, actually, I still think this is possibly for user experience, probably the best little Amiga you can build. Okay. Having said that, I love my 1000 way more than this, and my 2000 with the Vampire, and it's just amazing. I love, and then I've got my 3000 with a video toaster in it. So I never, to be honest, after the video, this may be telling. After the video, I haven't touched it. I've got the real things.
Yeah, I know the pain. I have the Pi here as well, and no time to. I was planning to run the Amibian, on it, and this is the great option. But with this is somehow the question connected, because I think this is the Raspberry Foundation and so on. This movement can be really good use by the, let's say, official Amiga OS or something like this.
What's the story about that?
Because this is on Raspberry, you have a lot of hobby OS, already official on the web page, and for example, it could be official Amiga OS, but it could be as well AROS officially. When I download this image of SD card, I can select the operating system which should be installed, and if I want to feel the Amiga, I must do it. I must search. It's not so easy, so it could be great option for us to increase the community. Do
you want a story about that then?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
we are here for stories.
Do you remember when the Pi was first launched?
I don't. 10 years ago, maybe.
I went to the launch event, and I met Eben and his wife and the team, and they're absolutely wonderful. And I got chatting to them, and because I was very heavily into AROS at the time. And I was talking to them about the potential of, for one hand was to port AROS to it. On the second hand was to try and be the intermediary between them and Hyperion and Cloanto, and to get, because the important thing to know is Eben Upton loves Amiga.
Yeah,
and I just recently sent him a setup of this on the Pi, but he had a 600 and he loves the Amiga. So what he wanted was all the games. That was really what he wanted. He wanted all the games. So I spoke to Hyperion. I got in touch with Ben Hermans, and I got in touch with Michael. I don't think Michael, I'm not sure how much Michael was involved in, but I spoke to him, and I just got nowhere, absolutely nowhere. They wouldn't even talk. Didn't want to know. And I said, well, look, if we do this, because now it's prime, you've got a really good chance. Now, bearing in mind, the Pi was not as big as it is now.
Yep.
I said, you've got a really good chance. Even will put effort into it. They haven't got a lot of money, but they will put effort into it, and they will pull it in. But I don't think they could see the logic. Now, I think all they were bothered about was Amiga OS 4, and I understand that. But to my understanding, they own the rights to Amiga OS 3 and the licenses, which I'll hopefully come back onto in a minute. But they have the operating system, so they could put the operating system on the Pi, through emulation layer, and do it officially, exactly like you were saying. But they blew me out, and I was furious because they missed such an opportunity. Anyway, so it's all been taken over now because the Amiga boys are doing it, and they're doing a great job. Yes, it's not as good as it could be. Now, what I'm hoping is, my opinion, maybe they'll be listening to this. I know for a fact that because they're now releasing the new version of the Kickstart, which has got quite a few changes, and I believe new workbench.
Yep.
Therefore, because I was going to talk to them actually about being able to buy them. Why not just do an official? They can just official license of the operating system. That then I'm not sure if they'd be interested to buy Foundation now, but I don't think they care. But I might be able to, speak to Eamon, because we had a chat a little while ago with what I was doing, and maybe do something exactly like you're saying. Here's the package. Once you make the operating system official from the OS owner, you can then build on that. And then do, you can, obviously there's games that are going to be, to be able to use. Now, they could do this with, Michael could do this at Cloanto. But, I don't know. I mean, I did mention it, but it just all fell on deaf ears. So, but there is massive potential there now. Can you imagine suddenly saying, here's an Amiga, click here for, say, I don't know, 10 to 20 pounds. Download it onto your Pi, and then you're an official. Now, there are 10 million Pis.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you say 1 million Pis are active users that will be interested, say 10%, and you maybe get 10% of that. That's a lot of licenses.
Of course.
So,
big community in the world.
Yeah. On the AROS side, the problem we had was just the developers. It does run on ARM. You can run it now. It does actually work, but it's not configured for the Pi, and it'd be a waste of time because the problem with AROS is the lack of developers, because all the Amiga developers are split between 4 different operating systems, and that's your core problem. Which I'm not saying get rid of them, don't get me wrong, but they're split. So what little resources we do have get split, and then the developers don't tend to argue. I think maybe some of the users might, but the developers are pretty cool. They just want to code, so they're quite happy. But there is massive potential with the Pi, and I would love to see it. And I mean, I'd still say if Hyperion were to get in touch with Eamon and say, look, would you be interested to have a chat? Don't have to go through me. Just get in touch, and they could do that. And I think Eamon would listen. There'd be no problem in listening. But that's, and then someone could do an official. An actual official package with it, whether that's Michael, because Michael's got all the games and everything, hasn't he? It would make sense for Michael, but what I don't want to do is, in my mind, Hyperion, from what I understand, own Amiga OS 3. Yeah, so they should be doing it. That's how I feel about it, and it might generate a ton of cash. A small ton of cash. It might generate some cash to help more work on OS 4.
Exactly, because I think that it looks now that the Hyperion is not doing something special on the development of OS 4 after AmiOS and so on. It was basically nothing presented, and I think they have the problem with the cash as well. So this is the great opportunity to, like said, make some money.
I'd love to see it. I really would. But my see, I suppose the one thing with AROS is we've got. I'm actually funding something else on AROS, which I can't tell you about. Hopefully, Michael may finish it at some point. Okay. But there's something new coming. But there's multi-core support is already in it, and that does work. It's. Again, it's not in Icarus. It's not been moved forward because, again, developer time. But I would. My feeling has always been, and I've been told I'm naive to think this, but my opinion is that developers get on with it. Developers get on fine. It's only the people that let the egos and the politics that stop everyone working together. And if everyone worked together, we could turn this small but growing vintage boom into something good. But if we carry on the way they are, I mean, that's why at the moment, I think AROS 4 is great. I really do, and I mean that. And I've spoken to the twins, and but they also like the stuff I was doing, because I went to this was about 2 or 3 years. Oh God, it might have been longer than that. 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a show in Germany, and I sat down. We all went out for dinner, and I sat down, and they came up, shook my hand. They were really nice, and they loved what I was doing with AROS. Because I was supporting developers, and that's how I feel about it. It doesn't, to me, yes, I channel money into AROS because I like AROS for the reasons I've already explained. But likewise, I channeled money to Ian Gledhill. He did some work for me for AROS, and then he moved it over into Amiga OS 4 because he preferred Amiga OS 4. But you're still putting money in to develop Amiga developers. And I think the developers are not... I can't say for all of them. I think all the developers I've ever spoke to, they like them all. They would quite happily work on multi-platforms. So that's if we had a way of doing that. Now, with the Vampire coming along, because the classic side is always been important.
Yeah, and now it's even bigger than ever.
We are now getting a huge amount of power. So now we can, and funnily enough, we're fully compatible with 68K. We don't have to run any layers or anything like that. So that can get faster and faster and faster. Now, there's good examples of where AROS is helping Amiga. Have you heard Amiga for AROS for Amiga OS? I forget, AFOS or something like that. Yeah, so if you look in the AMIkit, that's been improved massively by a lot of work done by AROS developers. So we can pull that stuff, make the classic 68, let's call it 68K software better and better. You don't have to go to AROS, because if I'm hoping that Hyperion will catch on, and I think they are, because they're making changes to the Kickstart, and they're releasing new versions of the classic Workbench 68K stuff. If they continue a bit of that, then there is a good chance that we can just bubble up like that. And as the Vampire gets faster and faster, there is potential for being a lot faster. So there is a good chance that we can make that a really nice little system based on that. And so that's why my interest in classic has been rejuvenated.
Yes,
massive.
Something like this. I think this can be, or it will be, or it is connected somehow with the PowerPC, because the PowerPC is nice, cheap, but dead end at the end of all. And the
I didn't, but I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fact. Yeah, and it's basically I have at my home X5000, yeah, and it's, let's say, the fastest Amiga ever, yeah, in theory, and it's fast, okay, but when you convert even the movie in using this MPEG or something, that's converter, and when I converting this on my Mac, 2 years old Mac, is 10-20 times faster, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So it's you cannot compare this. So that's why the AROS.
You wouldn't get a problem with AROS.
But
it's really fast.
Yes, that's why I want to ask
not
you.
Amiga OS 4.
But basically, AROS is, the problem. I don't know. Maybe you can explain. Where is the problem of AROS? Because it's cheap, available at least through virtualization on every hardware, and still is not so popular. For sure, it's not so, in my opinion, not so polished or something. Yeah, I try to use the AROS desktop, and there are some always. It's not perfect. It's well made, but for when I compare this to, for example, Amiga OS 4, it's not so polished, or it's not so working out of the box or something.
Okay, I don't know which version. Did you use the latest version of Icarus, the 2.2?
I used 2.1 and 2.2.
Okay.
The problem is the another problem for Mac OS user is you should use, or I use the virtual box, but I cannot get the sound of the.
Okay. So I'm only going to talk from the point of view of actually having real hardware. Okay, let me talk from that, because emulation, virtualization comes with the usual. I mean, the virtualization on a virtual box is very good, but you don't get accelerated graphics.
Yep.
So if you've got, I mean, listeners may well have seen my video, the 3 videos I did building the box.
Really great one.
The performance is ridiculously good. More importantly, I think Icarus is, I'll be careful what I say here now, is not perfect, but the biggest thing that improved Icarus was the implementation of DirectOpus 5.5 and Magento 5.9. That transformed it, and that was for me the greatest thing that happened to AROS. And I actually like, because it reminds me of more, well, it doesn't really matter actually, but I like that now, the way 2.2 is. I think 2.2 is quite nice. Yes, there are things that can be improved. There always is. I found stability. I mean, now, to be fair, I will say I had an X1000 for a while. And I have run Amiga OS 4. And I still like AROS. Mm-hmm. But, you know, OS 4 is what I do like about OS 4. Is it called Petunia? The translation layer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 68K emulation. Okay.
Yeah. Because I don't play games. All I do is run software. So I did that. That is very impressive. Whereas on AROS, you have to do it through a virtual machine, which works really well. I find it runs. If you just go, no, I'm going to run my Amiga in an emulator on AROS, it runs brilliantly. If you try to be clever and merge it, it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So I always run it like a separate screen with a full screen workbench on it. It runs beautifully. It's just, runs really well. It's not perfect. The only thing that's not quite right, I don't think the network still isn't there. So you can't use internet apps. Oh, well, you don't need them because you've got a ton on AROS. The sound is pretty good, but occasionally it can be a bit choppy. But I did find the translation layer in Amiga OS 4 was fantastic, and it's an amazing piece of software. Having said that, as far as experience is concerned, I still prefer AROS. It's one of those that everyone tries. I mean, because I've had a look at. I think Morphos is just fantastic as well. And my thing's always been this. Imagine a world where we all were, say we treated AROS as a central repository for all code. And this is where I'm going to upset people, but I've always thought if AROS was the central pool of code, because it runs on all platforms, and then everybody from all the other platforms came in, built their bits on top of it. So, for example, you'd have the core of AROS as the central part. You would have PowerPC split off, so you could have a PowerPC version, even using their own OS 4 software, as like a Linux distribution. But we all accepted that it was a center. Then the public could see I have different flavors. It's how you market it. Say you come in. Which flavor do you want? And everyone sells it, but everyone actually works together to get, and then you can take as much code from AROS as you like and run it in yours. I mean, because you can do that anyway. If everybody worked together and we actually did this together, all the platforms, if they talked, because you find most, I may be wrong here, and I know it's not quite true, but the Morphos developers are quite happy talking to the AROS developers, and they've done a lot of work with AROS and supported it and done a lot of, I look at OWB, we've got that was done, that's fantastic. Then you've got the Amiga OS guys have been really good, but it's the Morphos and the Amiga OS politics. There are a lot of anger in the past, which I missed. Now, if they could ever get over that, and we all worked as one big team, we could really transform the Amiga community, and you could make a platform for the future. And we're never going to take on Apple, Microsoft, or whatever. We're never going to do that. But if we got like 0.1%, 0.01% of computer users in the world, we'd be laughing.
Yeah, it will be. I think it will
But
be.
With the fighting, it's difficult.
It will be at least great when we have something like commercial market on the Amiga, because now it's not existing. Yeah, besides of hardware for classic, but we are lack of the software and so on. And this is the problem, I think, as well, that our developers cannot work together because of the old stories, and it's a little bit funny because when you are 50 or something like this was when you were young, so make no sense, but okay.
Here's an intro. Have you heard about I don't know if it's too early to start talking about this, but have you heard about my new case project?
No, you were, I think, writing something me, but no.
Oh, okay, right. Oh, that'd be interesting. Okay, so the Checkmate 1500 was done nearly 30 years ago, and I am designing a new version. Mm-hmm. And you've not seen it, but I've created a Facebook group, and the design is now done, but it's basically a new case that has the front that looks just like the Amiga 3000.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Okay, one. Inside it can take you can put a 500 in there, and you get 1 or 2 slots depending on the configuration. So you can put 2000 graphics card in it or network card in it. You can put you can fit in it 500 expansion cards, for example. The oh god, what's it called? The 500 plus, from Jens. And all the others that are coming along, so you can fit all them in there. You can even put a Raspberry Pi inside it to be as a second processor, but you can put the 1200 in it and do the same thing. You can put the 600 in it. You can also put in it a PC micro ATX or mini ITX motherboard in it, or you can put the Tabor in it. You might be able to fit, I don't know about the size of it, you might be able to fit the 5000, but I haven't got the dimensions, so I don't know. But you can fit that. Now, the point about the putting the micro ATX and the mini ITX motherboards in, you can have a full-size modern GPU in it as well. Yeah. So for all those people out there that have, I don't know about you, but I mean, I've always thought the 3000 was the prettiest Amiga ever made. So for all those people who knew about that, they can look at it and they go, oh, that's really nice. It also has we have a riser that goes underneath it, and you screw into the base, and it lifts it so you can put a keyboard underneath it. So there's all this kind of stuff we're doing. I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter soon-ish. Nice. But the front is injection. The reason for the Kickstarter is the front is going to be injection molded, which is very expensive. So, but I've already had 200 people saying they want it. I'm getting a lot. I've got on the group, there's now 500 members. It's really doing. The thing at the moment is I'm at the manufacturers now, because I've got a manufacturer in the UK who made the original 1500, and I'm hoping that we can get this translation of my designs into their computer design systems. There's a bit of translation problems at the moment, getting it on there. So once they've done that, then I can build a prototype, and I can 3D mold the front, model the front, etc., to make a prototype. Then I'll launch a Kickstarter. Now, I'm getting to a point here. The idea is going to be that you buy this case that looks like an Amiga 3000, but it's black now, or white if you want it white. It uses modern mechanical keyboards, but you can put in it a 500, a 1200. You can put in it a 600. You can put a PC to run emulator. Put a PC in it and run virtual, because I'm going to put my virtual reality system in it, okay? So my headset, and run the emulation, or maybe AROS, okay? But if you've got a Tabor in it, you can run Morphos, or you can run Amiga OS 4 in the same case. So basically, you'll be able to go when the website's up. You'll be able to say buy the case and then say which operating system do I want to run in it. Just do, and we'll build it accordingly. So it won't matter because you'll all be in the same case.
Yeah, this is nice. And yeah,
So,
I'm
but
waiting.
you need to see the designs.
Yeah, of course. I hope at the end of all we will see this sooner than later. Not 2 weeks in Amiga way, because
No. It's at the moment. I mean, the original plan was. So I'm just loading some bits up so I can send you a link. The original plan was that I was going to launch the Kickstarter in February, but the delays of making the prototype has held me back. So it should be soon. Literally, all I've got to do is get the prototype in. Well, I'm just sending you something. Yeah, right, that's good. So I'm literally doing the designs. I'm going to see the manufacturers again during this week, and we're going to sit down and try and get, because I did it all in SketchUp because there's so many bits to it. If you move one thing, something else doesn't work, and it's taken a long time. It's taken me 2 months to design the whole thing, and I need to get that to the manufacturers, and they need to make the thing.
Yep.
Well, once that's done, then we do the Kickstarter. And with the Kickstarter, once it's designed, the prototype's done, we're ready to go. The Kickstarter is only to fund the molds for the front. That's the only reason. So I have to have a minimum, I think it's 250 orders, and I've got 200 already. Just people said, because I've got would you buy it if I launched it? 200 already have said yes. So I need to get to 250. That funds the molding of the front. Once that's done, now bear in mind this case itself is the target price is £150. Okay, which is, I don't think it's too unreasonable, because I did a survey in Germany. There was a guy helped me with a survey in Germany, and he said, well, would you buy this case, because I designed it, would you buy this case at 300, 150 or any price? 90% of people say £150. Now,
Okay.
obviously, because it's a cheap price, but I do think £150 is the target price. So
It looks good.
Yeah.
What I say
so
here.
that's the plan for me. Now it's just a reimagining of it, and I've designed it this time, so I've got all the things that I always wanted to put in it. I'm gonna do two. I've got a 500 motherboard sitting up there. I'm gonna build one with a 500 with probably my Vampire in it, to be honest, and my network card. Because it's actually a lovely little machine, the Vampire with the network card and everything. It just works beautifully. So I'm going to build one of them, and I'm also going to build a really fast 1080 GTX 1080 based, because I've already got the card, virtual reality system. Because I don't know if you're aware of this, virtual reality was started by the Amiga. Do you know that?
I know some stories, so I think there was something.
And it was the 3000 that powered it, because it was not the graphics, not the graphics. That was a special board that was connected to the 3000, but everything else, because of the multitasking operating system, the speed of the 3000, they did everything else, all the head tracking and all that kind of stuff, and everything. The 3D was done by a big 3D card, but the virtuality system was based on the 3000 computer.
Okay.
So there's that there now, because I've been talking about that with in the PC area, saying, look, it was the original virtual reality. Here is a new virtual reality one based on the same, look and feel. Oh, well, while you're there, it comes with an Amiga emulator. Okay, so you can run the Amiga software, probably like something like AMIcast or something like that, to give people a good experience that you can just launch from the desktop and just run straight away. So the plan is there to run any kind of Amiga system you want in this one case.
Nice.
Maybe people will talk then.
You should as well maybe talk with the Apollo team to make the design for standalone version.
Yeah. No, they already know about it, and I'm going to be making sure that the new Vampire fits in it.
Really
that's going to be fine. I mean, the funny thing is also is that you can put a Pi in it as well. Now, I'm not going to build the case just to put a Pi in it, but the idea was that if you've got an Amiga with a network card, you use one of the bays on the right hand side, and you fit a Pi into it, connect the network together, and then you can communicate and use the Pi with the Amiga. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was thinking about this because now I use my Pi through the VNC server or this client, so I can access from my Amiga OS but this is not so, let's say, fluent or speed is not enough. Yeah, it's okay.
It's a bit of fun.
And I was thinking if this is possible, for example, to make something like a PCI card or like a mount. I'm not talking about like the connection, but that I put in my X5000, or I put it in my 2000 or something. So basically this is the maybe not same story like the Siamese software. That,
I know you mean. Yeah,
exactly. So maybe let's talk about this a little bit. Because it was really great idea, and why you created. You already was talking about this, but the ideas or for what, basically to have the two computers together, or
I've been there, done that.
But okay, but you were.
I did think that the whole thing with the Pi would be quite nice for Amiga owners, because it might do things. But nowadays, I was originally thinking, maybe we could use it. Like maybe I could get Siamese software to work with the Linux Windows layer. I forget what it's called now. Maybe get it to work with that, and then retarget across using Siamese System. But then the Vampire came along and it was so fast anyway, who cares? It's just... But no, I was thinking the Pi is a great tool, and people want to be able to program the Pi and be able to communicate with it and so on. And they might have projects, so sticking a Pi in a case with a PC or with an Amiga or whatever, maybe it'd be a good tool. I don't know. To be honest, it's a little bit of fun. But I like the idea as well of having... if you buy a PC, I can stick a Pi in it with a micro SD card with a full operating system and run Amibian.
Yep.
To switch to it. I don't know. But then you could just run the emulator. So, So these are all just messing around ideas. But the thing, the case is something putting quite a lot of effort into it. It's not my day job, obviously. It's a hobby, as most people in this me community is a hobby. And I can't guarantee it's going to come to fruition. My aim is to bring it to fruition and put an awful lot of effort into it. I'm fairly confident, but at the moment we discuss the things like, it's going to cost a lot of money. We got to redesign. I think you're not redesigning. No, you're not. So there's that kind of discussion. So I need to sort that part of it, get it to manufacture the prototypes. But once that's done, I think a lot of people will like the case. I hope.
It looks good, really.
But I've not had any bad comments. I mean, if I've had the comments, it'll never happen. I know. Yeah, I know about that. But I have got a history of doing stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
I have delivered things, and even the Amiga thing. That kind. I said, I'll do one, and I bought it out, and it came out with fully supported drivers, and I've done that. So this one's a bit more of a because it's. If I'd done it just for 500, it would have actually been really easy. But the fact that you can put a 1200, 600, a micro ATX card, a mini ITX, all these different things, it's a headache. But it does work. It does work nice. In the design, it works. But in practice, that's where we're going to find out.
Of course. But I think you can do it. And you will do it. Okay, let's maybe talk about the AROS, because this was the... Okay, I think I will put in the description the link to your tutorials, how to build the PC, and you already said that the best option is to build some kind. This is a little bit sad, is that I cannot take the new laptop from the shop and install it. Okay, but in short words, because maybe to encourage guys how to start building the PC AROS or in 10 minutes or something, not like because your tutorials are really long. And...
Okay. So basically, well, here's the first thing. If you've got a piece of hardware lying around, okay, or you've got a computer laying around, download and burn the Icarus, the latest Icarus. Burn it on a DVD or CD. You can even put it on a USB stick. Yep. And boot from that device, because you can boot from it and run it, just like with Linux. Boot from that, and then see how much support you've got, because you can actually run it. So you can test if, for example, your graphics system is supported. Usually 99% of the time your card is, but it's not native. So it will be in a Visa mode, which is not particularly brilliant, but it works. But it's not as good as native. Now, you can find out then. So you then, if that works, but your graphics card is not supported, check your slots and then buy a suitable card that is supported. The sound is the same. HD audio actually helps a hell of a lot, because so many cards have HD audio that it supports a reasonable number of machines. Network cards accordingly. So you may find you've got to try. If not, if you've got a laptop, it's very difficult. It is difficult with a laptop because you can't change anything.
Yep.
You know, it's one of those, if it doesn't work, forget it for that laptop, because you're not all run it in VirtualBox. But if you're building a machine, because I mean, as I said, if you buy one of, I'm showing this because if you buy one of these little Acer Spires, which I can give you the model number, but I haven't got my glasses, so I can't read it. If you buy one of them, it's supported out of the box. But that's one of the few laptops that is supported. But if you build a machine, okay, just test it, and then it means you've got to swap out a couple of cards. So you're going to want network, you're going to want sound, and you're going to want a graphics card. For graphics at the moment, stick to NVIDIA. Anything GTX 480 and back, or I've tried it with 460, but anything that series backwards. You find that the old 9000 series are actually very good. They work really, really well, but there is a list of the cards that are supported. But you can pick them up for a tenner.
Mm-hmm.
So say if you've got a PC with a box, all the CPUs work. You need to then find what bits don't work and replace those bits. Just get it off eBay. You might, probably the most you spend is £20 or £30 for the lot. You won't spend much. One key thing that's very important is it doesn't support SATA.
Yep.
Which is a major headache because everything's SATA.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is a pain in the neck, but you'll find some BIOSes can run SATA in legacy mode and then it works. So that's a good little tip. You may have that and you can run it in SATA mode. You can also get, if you've got, depending on what PC you've got, you can buy, let me see, no, I'm not going to have it to hand. You can buy these little cards for about a tenner. And they have you put them in a single tiny little PCIe slot, and it has an IDE connect cable, and then just get an IDE drive for $5 or something like that and plug it in with the CD-ROM. So you're going back a little bit in kit. Obviously that, and the network cards, there's a load of network cards supported. You can pick them up for £5-10, then they're not a big deal. But if you're going to build a box, the box is the best way of doing it, because you can swap bits out, add bits in, that kind of thing. And that's how I did. That's what I did in the video. So I took two PCs, and one of them actually was reasonably well supported when it came out straight away. But I swapped out the graphics card and put a faster one in because I'm greedy. But I think the network was okay and the sound wasn't. It was one of them. But I mean, you just have to put the cards in that are supported and then build it accordingly. If you've got the machine, or you get it out of a skip, because you can do that, and then you might have, say, a 2 gigahertz Intel Pentium or something, and you buy a couple of cards and put them in and slot them in. You might spend £20-30 doing this, maybe £30-40, something like that. Then you've got a really fast AROS Amiga. Okay, And the thing obviously is because it's an Amiga, it doesn't need 4 gigahertz to get it to run well. It can run on 1 gigahertz. I mean, this little atom flies, absolutely flies. This can it'll wipe the floor with a Power PC, and you can pick them up peanuts. So that's running AROS. Okay, so you can build one relatively cheaply, but you have to be a tinkerer. Yeah, you can't just go, oh, it worked, because the thing with Linux, if you get Linux and you put it on pretty much any piece of kit, plug it in, it installs, got drivers, it's all working, it's fine. But they got thousands of developers doing drivers. We've got probably about 5-10 that work and can only do, and drivers are very complex. I mean, that's why I fund it. And half the time, I found historically, developers like to develop, but some are driven by, they just want to do it and say, well, I haven't got the kit and they can't afford to buy it, especially in certain countries where they haven't got a lot of money, these guys, and they're getting stuff out of a skit. So I send them a card, 20 quid, 30 quid, whatever it is, get them to develop the drivers. Then you've got new driver. Okay. Some of them, for example, David Wentzler, who wrote the HD audio driver, he's a professional developer. So I approached him and he did the whole thing for me for £600, which I thought was really reasonable, to be fair.
Yeah, I think quite cheap.
Thing. And then because I said I gave the software away, but not the source code. And the reason for that was I needed to recoup that money to put in something else. So the AROS community got together and within 3 days raised it through the system we have. And then I released the source code. So that's all open source and they're still working on it. So it's the same thing with some of the others. I mean, when we did the Intel GMA driver, that was a simple one. Michael just said, I paid Michael a reasonable amount of money, actually, to develop this driver. And he said, I'm putting a source in there. I said, yeah, it's fine, whatever. But, so the drivers, we don't have as many developers to do all the drivers. So you have to do, if you want to join the club, you have to be prepared to get your feet dirty. And half the fun is, you can pretty much get AROS to run on anything, but with no network, no sound, and non-proper drivers for the graphics, but you will see it. And then you say, right, which bit's working? I've got no network and no sound, but my graphics is okay. So you just find a couple of cards, you plug them in, you've then got network and sound for 20 quid. You just have to do a little bit of work. It's a bit more complicated, but I've got to be honest, it's a bit like the old days on the Amiga. We didn't have everything and we had to figure ways out of doing stuff. Like, that's one of the reasons Siamese came along, because I wanted to use a 16-bit sound card, but I had a PC. Okay, but now I can AHI could retarget, you see. And the graphics, I didn't have a graphics card then, but I was using Siamese RTG and running it on the PC. So you had to be a little bit clever what you was doing. It's not an instant, buy it, turn it on and go. Even now, I mean, I'm hoping to do an AROS box, fully configured, in the nice case, completely configured. There's a couple of drivers still to be done because we still have a problem. The HD audio should be right in the network. I think it'd be okay. There's graphics driver being done. But whether that be finished, I don't know yet. If it's finished, it's going to help a lot. And then you can have the fastest Amiga ever. Whether you want to call it Amiga, a lot of people go, no, you can't call AROS an Amiga. Okay, I understand. Fair enough, whatever. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Yeah. So, AROS is, all intents and purposes, a clean room rebuild of the operating system from scratch. And no one's been able to disprove that. So, as far as I'm concerned, it is the Amiga on x86, and PowerPC, and on ARM, and on 68K. So AROS is everywhere. But we do need developers. It's the same thing for the other platforms. They need developers. There's limited amount of money being put around. I'm hoping the Vampire, the team I know from my understanding are very pro AROS, but I think in some ways they would be better off working with Hyperion to get the official Amiga OS, then they can call it Amiga OS. Do you see what I'm saying? If they go with AROS, they may have problems calling it Amiga, but all these things can be resolved if people talk. I mean, if in my original scenario, if we all got together as a community with all the platforms, sat down and worked out and said, look, let's just say the Amiga is all of us, okay, and made it official, but you have this flavor, that flavor, this flavor, that flavor, and so on. It's a cleaner way for someone new to come in, and they can say, it'll be like your Linux distribution. Oh, I want to run Ubuntu. No, yeah, but I want to run SUSE, or I want to run this one. All these different, but it's still Linux. And if we could get to that point, I think this community could grow. It could grow quite well, because retro and vintage is massive, absolutely massive.
Yeah, especially in UK, I think now it's really powerful.
Yeah, they're nuts to it. But most of them are playing games.
Yeah, of course. I know the pain. I'm not the player as well, so that's why I'm more interested in let's say future or development of doing some stuff. But I have the question, for example, with the AROS, maybe the better solution maybe could be something like you can select, or the AROS developers or somebody will select the notebook for example, one model for 3 years, and then support only that, or one PC, and then you, like you said, you can sell it in some nice case or something. But then I know I go to this shop and out of box. So it is maybe not better solution than doing drivers here, doing there,
We tried it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a good example.
Yeah, but now this is quite old, and I'm talking about.
Yeah. No. I know. When we did it, it wasn't old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is no replacement for this now. Yeah.
It was a relevant new product. I got the drivers written. It took a little while. It took 6 months. By the time the drivers were written, it had been replaced. All the chips had been replaced. We couldn't support it. So the hardware turnover is so quick that it's very difficult. Now, the only way you can do this, I mean, I did consider talking to Acer originally, and maybe going out there. But the only way to do it would be to get a manufacturer, a big manufacturer, who would give you their roadmap, and then you develop, because we can only develop so much, okay, and then develop for a platform that's going to have a lifespan of, say, 3 years. And then, I agree with totally, you're absolutely right, but you have to. We always end up coming in just as it's being killed off. And that's the problem. That's why I like the Atom, because I thought the Intel Atom will have a life cycle. But even the Intel Atom, when you got to the later revision, the next revision, they changed all the graphics. And I couldn't get Michael to rewrite the graphics. He just couldn't do it. It would have taken him 6 months, and then they changed it again. So this is the problem you face. You don't get 3 years. You just don't get that. And it works in the Linux community because you've got so many developers. Now, here's another idea. Communicate with the Linux community, the developers, and say, look, we would love you to come. Would you help us with drivers? Okay, and then we have some incentives. If you've done a driver and you would like to get in touch, we can talk about some kind of incentives. And bring, you have to pay a little bit. You're gonna have to, whatever they like. It may be just buy them the particular piece of hardware. Maybe give them the laptop. Yeah, give out a few laptops, because no Trevor does this. Give the hardware out. The trouble is, it's a slow process. I mean, I've done this a few times, and it is a slow process. It moves very slow. Hardware changes really quick, and so you can never keep up with it. That's the problem with it. If you got a manufacturer on board and said, "Here's our roadmap," but they're still being led by the chips. I'll give you an example. The new Intel cores are going to have an AMD graphics chip on it. Okay, so all the old stuff's gone. With the network cards, they change. There's so many different types of network chips, and they just swap them about all over the place. Sound is the same, different standard, different chips, and you'd need to write more drivers. It's drivers is the issue. If you had a manufacturer that came on board and said, say for example, because I think someone had been in touch with Acer, and they were maybe, but they're such a big company, they're going to go, well, so you're going to give us what, 200 more sales? Who cares? Yeah. If you went and said we want 100,000 laptops, but even then, the next lot being compatible.
Of course.
So it's all about developers. If you can get the developers and get the developers interested, then that would work. But again, you have to be very, very quick.
Okay, but
it's sad.
Now the a little bit maybe controversial question, but
go on.
There is a project, not AROS, AROS, yeah. So based on the Linux kernel, and maybe this is the solution to use this kernel and then the rest of the Amiga stuff. What do you think about this? Yeah,
AROS.
Yeah, exactly. From the
Pascal
Papara, yeah.
Lovely guy. I think he was right, and I'll tell you why. I spoke with Michael Schultz a lot about this, and he had a plan to take the Linux kernel and build AROS on top of it. I mean, AROS gets accused of being based on Linux. It's not. It really isn't. But he gets accused of it all the time. But as soon as you put the Linux kernel in there, the Amiga community just throws its hands up and just doesn't want to know. So, because I think that putting the Linux kernel on it, just like they did with Android, get the Linux kernel, because Michael Schultz what Pascal's done with AROS he's done a great little job with that, but Michael's objectives were way beyond that. Literally, all the drivers and the kernel, all the drivers for everything would work with AROS natively because they would be translated through the Linux core. So here's why, but you wouldn't even notice it. So to me, it would be a bit like when Apple went to from PowerPC to x86. Exactly. They got Unix. They bought Unix in. It was a clever thing to do. The trouble is, Amiga users, the existing Amiga community would be like they would consider shooting Jay Miner in the face with a shotgun, and they wouldn't like it. Now, my opinion is, hang on a second, he might have, I don't want to. He might have liked it. I mean, other people might have liked it. I mean, if you talk to some of the older developers, they were already talking about bringing another operating system because the core of the Amiga OS does have problems in the modern world for multi-core, and which is why AROS has got multi-core, but there's a lot of problems with the forbid command and stuff like that. There's a lot of technical reasons why the Amiga OS does have a few problems. So if there was a way, if everyone worked together and we went, right, as a community of Amiga developers, we will do what we think is best for the future, and decided to take that core and build on top of it, and then the people just go with it or not. If it had the Amiga, I'll tell you, if Hyperion came on board and we did something like that, and then it had the Amiga logo on it, no one would care.
Yeah, true.
If it said Amiga and it was run with Amiga code, it just happened at the bottom end of the engine, it was using Linux, which is open source. Using that, absolutely, people would buy it. But because it doesn't say Amiga on it, they won't touch it.
True.
And that's your big problem. That's why Amiga OS 4 is popular. People love it because it's got the brand. It is a good OS. Don't get me wrong, it's a great OS. But the reason that it's got Amiga on it, it can have the name. That is everything.
Yeah, but
don't have the name.
At the end of all, it matters. Yeah, somehow in marketing world or something.
Makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside as well.
But basically, at the end of all, name matters. Like it it's shown, but the question is, because now we have again the like you said, we should work together and so on, and this is the right, and now we have the again big fight between Clanto, Hyperion, I don't know who more maybe joined the and you see this is it is complicated to work together, I think, and to make the one operating OS, for example.
Yeah, they need to grow up.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm sorry, I've been around longer than all of them, except David Pleasance, and I'm like, oh please, just sort it out. If you wanted to, you could sort it out. I know there are legal things and they have to tidy up the legal things. Just sort it out. You know, it's all egos, and that's all it is. And the Amiga has always suffered at the hands of people with ego. Always, it's always suffered. I mean, well, not in the original Amiga company. No, not at all. There, sorry, I take that back. As soon as he got to Commodore,
yeah, understand what you mean.
Speak to any of the old developers. I mean, and you know, look at the big picture. I mean, people are only doing this for fun anyway. I mean, I don't see what fun they get with all the arguments. You know, if they could just, as I said, if people could just grow up, look at the big picture, and then work together, okay? And they solved the problem with, look, if they fixed the Berlin Wall, all these other things have sorted themselves out. All these problems around the world get fixed, and we can't have a bunch of Amiga developers talking together. Really? You know, it annoys me. It just really annoys me. But, you know, apparently I'm naive.
Yeah.
But I know most fans would do the same thing. They'd say the same thing. Just sort it out.
That's why now I start to thinking a little bit in this whole situation, because it's really it's just a stupid situation. It's really
stupid's the right word.
Because we are users, and basically we are nobody for this VIP guys or something. And I don't know, maybe the AROS is the chance to survive somehow, I hope. And maybe the easy question now, because
go on. I like the hard ones.
Which application you can, or maybe top application for AROS, because the people don't know this operating system. So what I can do in short words on the AROS, because I know there is Odyssey, there is Empire, for example, but what you can say from the software point of view, why I should try AROS, or maybe like that.
Okay. Right, so first of all, let's look at what AROS has got. What's the main thing you want to use a computer for nowadays? You want to surf the web, you want to maybe do some FTP, you want to do all the internet applications and stuff.
Yeah,
you can do.
mostly.
You do all that with AROS. And because we've got OWB on really fast hardware, it flies. So, I mean, even to the point where you can run YouTube with HTML5 video. You've got all that, right? So your internet applications, you've got. Are they as good as the latest version of Chrome on the fastest Mac and PC? No, but they're not. They're usable. They're very usable. So you've got probably one of the best browsers, you know, because I know it comes from Morphos and comes across and so on.
Yeah, but on the PowerPC hardware there is no just-in-time, and I think AROS version is already have this or something, yeah? Yeah,
it's pretty much as of probably a year ago, it's pretty much, I know Morphos is always a little bit ahead, obviously, but we've got a really good version of OWB. The 3D engine in AROS is outstanding, okay? We have this is why if you've got an NVIDIA graphics card, up to the 400 series, the graphics is, I mean, stunning. We've got the best, because it's OpenGL. We've got a full OpenGL stack. It is amazing. Some of the stuff you can see on AROS. So games, if you see some, on that video, I think I showed one of the games, which is like a Doom clone, not a Quake clone, that kind of thing. It flies, absolutely fantastic. So 3D engine's stunning. There is, the worst thing is we don't have an office suite, which is really frustrating. We have a kind of work around things, but what we do have, obviously, we can run the emulator, and then you can run all the old Amiga software. So we've got the full back catalogue of all Amiga software, all works on AROS. But what you do is you run the Amiga operating system up as, I like to call it almost like a virtual machine, because it is an emulator is a virtual machine basically. So with obviously doing a bit more work, obviously, but so you can run that up as a task on AROS, have it on another screen. You've got your full software. Now, again, within limitations that the network at the moment, I don't think the network's not working, but you can use all the other applications. You don't need network because you've got all the network tools on AROS. But there's also other things. There's I don't know if you've seen MPlayer. There's also you mentioned FFmpeg, FFmpeg. Oh, I forget what it's called.
Converting.
There is a version of that on AROS, so you can do all your conversion. It is a little bit old, I must admit, because I got Christoph to do that some time ago. So you've got that. So Ian Gledhill wrote a front end for me as well. So we've got a basic video editor using it, and it could do with working on. But there's that in there. There's all the on AROS side. I don't know if people know that, and I didn't know this. There is actually a game development engine built into it, which I didn't even know. And it's a bit like the Unity kind of size, but it's an open source one. I didn't even know, and it's sitting in there hidden away. There is an awful lot of stuff you can do on AROS. You've got loads and loads of development tools. None of the platforms have development tools that I use. I mean, I use Visual Studio on Windows. It's crazy good. I mean, okay. And then when I come back to the Amiga, oh my god. So I'm not a hardware developer, so I can't just come in. I can't do it myself, so I pay other people to. There's a load of games. I mean, lots of people have been porting games. I mean, all platforms have ported games. Very rare do you get native Amiga games written for specific. So we get ports of different games, and there's a ton of great games. A lot of them using the 3D engine. The 3D engine is really important part of this. And then, of course, you've got, in the future, we've already got multi-core running. So it is having more work, but you can go and download a version, and you can run 8 cores with AROS. There's not much runs there, but there's a few demos, and you can see it working. So there's that. For developers who want to be excited, it's there. If you're a developer, AROS is perfect. It is perfect because you can play, you can contribute, you can create things and become a hero in the community. Same as any platform, but we do like to big up our developers. I mean, I do. I know that. I mean, I think they're the greatest things in the world. But another thing it's really good for, if you like emulating systems, there was a load of emulators on AROS for other platforms, like your Nintendos. I think there's a PS2, PS1. There's Sinclair emulators, 64 emulators. I mean, everything. You can do tons of stuff on there. But it's for people who like Amiga and aren't scared to not use Windows as their operating system. Now, disclaimer, okay? Day to day, I use Windows because that's how I make my living. I dislike it intensely, but I make my living. It pays my bills. But my wife always laughs. As soon as it's time to finish, the Windows machine that I'm on at the moment gets turned off, and I walk over. I don't know why I'm doing that, but and I go and play with that lot. Yeah, and I've got my AROS machine sitting here. I've got a great big 32-inch display, my nice AROS, which you've seen in the video. That box is sitting there, and I'll have stuff on that. And my Vampire, I play my music on my Vampire with my 8-bit sound, and I play my albums on there only because I can. All right. Yes, I could put it on the PC, but where's the fun in that? So, but I'm different to most people because I enjoy hardware. I love hardware, and I like building hardware, and I like all that kind of thing. Software for me is, I use the software obviously, but to me, I like building machines and restoring machines, and I like building new AROS machines. I like doing all this, setting everything up, showing how good it can work, and then I'll move on to something else. And I'll tell you the reason for that is, in the old days, I didn't create demos, I didn't create much graphics. I built machines for people to do that. So that's my fun. If you're a tinkerer, definitely AROS is great fun. I think it's a fantastic platform. If you're someone who needs, I know I've got work to do and I've got to do day-to-day work, none of the Amiga platforms particularly, because you can't type in letters is always interesting, unless you're using Final Writer. I use Final Writer. I did my script on not Final Writer. There's another one which I'm running on the.
I think you used the new Final Writer that it is.
Yeah, no, that's buggy. Oh God, I had to say, look, take it off because it wasn't good enough, and I was a bit frustrated that should never have been put on there. I understand maybe why they did, but the problem is that people get the wrong impression. Then you can't just put stuff on there because it's cool. That one, there was a few bugs with it that are being ironed out now, but that shouldn't have gone on there. But the potential for AROS with Final Writer, because they've got the source code, once they've got that fully working, is fantastic because it'll support the new formats and that kind of thing. That will change things. Three things changed AROS. Paolo doing Icarus years ago. Getting OWB because we needed a web browser desperately. Well, the 3D engine, obviously. It's more than three. The biggest thing to me was, and I was never a fan of Opus 5. I love 4. But Opus 5.5 Magellan as your workbench really made a difference. It's such a great file handling system now. I think it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. Nothing perfect.
Compared to Wonder, I think this is on AROS basically, yeah? The workbench replacement.
Wonder is okay, but compared to what we got now, it's rubbish.
Yeah, exactly.
It was always the weak spot. It worked, but it was always weak. Whereas because we got the source code built into AROS of Opus 5.9, I think, it is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I have one criticism against it though. Wanderer was was a multitasking workbench. Yeah, you could run, and when you move, like if you run 10 demos, you can move them around. They carried on. Try that with the new one. It's not multitasking. So if you move a lister, a program, right, everything else stops until you put it down. That's annoying because we had it before. So this is something that can be fixed.
Okay. And do you think that there will be a better future for AROS now? Or?
Yeah, of course it will. What will happen is someone will come along, and we had a guy called Christoph. It's a Polish guy.
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't pronounce his surname, and I don't want to try and pronounce his surname, but he was such a lovely guy, and he did so much work for AROS. But he moved on because he got fed up with people. To be fair, people, and I think most of the developers get fed up with this. The users, and I will moan about the users. The users do not always appreciate the work that goes into the software that's given away for free. And the developers don't necessarily want you to pay for the stuff. They just want to be appreciated like anyone else. And when you get someone writes a piece of software and then someone comes in and says, oh, there's a bug. Oh, it's useless. That software is rubbish. And then moans like hell. It doesn't speak to the developer and say, I've got a problem. Can you have a look? And then they'll go, oh, okay. I didn't notice that. Then they fix it. But instead, they can go, sorry. So little things like that. Or the other thing is, they're just taken for granted. People, that's what they're there for. They're meant to do the work so I can use it. No, they're not. It's a hobby. So, I think the users need to be more grateful. And I'm not talking about all users, but a lot of users need to be more grateful for the work that's done and show it either with nice words maybe with donating some money to places. You know, if you use a piece of software, send them a couple of pounds, buy a beer. You know, it goes so far. I mean, a lot of the development work that's come from AROS for my bit is literally I send them a graphics card. Don't need money, just send them a graphics card. Send them a network card they haven't got. Send them a sound card. They need a new CPU. Send them a new CPU and a motherboard. You know, these kind of things. Bit more supportive, and I mean that goes for all the platforms. The difference is that obviously with Morphos, there is actually money involved. People are paying for the license, so that's slightly different. The same with Amiga OS, you're paying for the license. With AROS, you're not paying for anything; it's all for free. So people need to be a little bit more supportive, maybe donate a little bit here and there, and then your developers wouldn't necessarily leave, you know, because we need the developers, and I always say when I met the twins, I love developing. I mean, I'm a developer myself, but I can't do the hardware stuff, the hardware device drivers. It's not my skill set. And so I adore our developers. I think they're the greatest things in the world. I appreciate them more than anything. And I try to make everyone clear of that. You know, I don't care what platform they write for. You know, I supported Amiga OS developers financially by getting them to write something. Like Ian, he's an Amiga OS 4 developer. I got him to write something for AROS, but he, you know, and he went back to Amiga OS 4 again. So it's, you know, but and I think some of the stuff he's done for AROS, he's moved across. You know, support the developers, and you know, I really do believe that. You know, even if it's send them an email, thanks, I love your software.
Yeah,
can half make a difference. You'd be surprised.
It's for everybody the same, or for whatever you do. It's really nice to have some support,
yes.
And good word. But do you have the idea how we can get more developers? Because basically our developers are quite old as well as users. And I think it's really hard to attract some, I don't know, 20 years old guy, to make some development for old system.
Well, first of all, you've got to know your target. Your target audience is the Linux community. That's obvious. You need to target them. You need to give them a system with great potential, and you need to have a community that's working together for them to come into, because the problem at the moment is anyone who comes in, the first thing they usually say is, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah,
you know, well, yeah, I can't be bothered with that. It's too much politics rubbish. You know, they don't like, I'm not talking to you, and I'm not talking to you, and so if you've got people coming in, why would they want to? If they came into the Amiga community and they were welcomed, and where would you like to work? You know, I mean, I still think the AROS is the best to be the core because it's open source. You know, someone said a little while ago, oh, maybe Amiga OS should be open sourced, right? It's already an Amiga open source Amiga. It operates there. So, and they won't do that because, and I understand that. But, you know, if we have one there, if everyone worked to support it, put stuff in and then took stuff out, and it comes to working together. If the community, I mean, it is a friendly community, don't get me wrong. You get some idiots, obviously, and you get people that won't talk to other people. But it is a nice community, but sometimes developers will come in and have a look, oh, really? That's a bit of a mess, isn't it? Or actually, the biggest thing, here's the big thing. The biggest thing is, show me the development tools on all platforms. Oh, they're rubbish, aren't they?
I don't know, but I heard we don't have the best tools in the world,
No, we don't. I mean, if the development tools could be, I mean, I'll give you an example, and I may be wrong. I would, a lot of developers, if they're developing for Amiga, work on Linux and cross-compile. So they use the Linux with all the source code editing tools, then send it to the virtual machine to be compiled, because at least they get a good editor. That is a big thing. Then there's the debugger's a bit of a problem because we don't really have a debugger as such. I mean, I tried to pay a developer many years ago who was going to do it. He actually had a prototype going for AROS. It just all fell apart, but that was going to look like it could be a good integrated, like a Visual Studio kind of thing. But that fell apart, sadly. But what we need is a development toolkit that works on all the platforms. Now, we kind of do, if you think about it. I'll tell you one thing that's quite good, although it's not a proper development system, and I've forgotten what it's called. What's the scripting toolkit? Hollywood.
Yep.
Hollywood is a brilliant one but it's only script and a library, but it is good because it's cross-platform and you can put it all over the place. If we had something like that for C, because all the platforms work mostly on C, if we had a good one with a good editor, with a debugger that could work with the different platforms, that you would bring people in, because they've got a toolkit to use. At the moment, it's quite tricky, to bring people in. So yeah, development tools are really important. At the moment, we don't really. Nothing I've seen, unless someone's going to come and send me a link to say, did you know about this? Mm-hmm. Maybe. I have seen there was a cross-platform thing, but no one I knew used it, and I don't know if it actually worked very well. But that's what's needed, is a cross-platform development toolkit that can work a bit like because Microsoft. I don't know, but I mean, I'm a Visual Studio developer, and now I can develop with Visual Studio and compile for Linux, compile for Android, and I can compile for iOS, because I'm literally doing that for my work at the moment. So I can compile to all of them. So, if we had something like that where, and I know there was something on Linux kind of similar, but that's a big thing. If you had a good development toolkit, then you would bring developers in. Okay. It would help when they come in. You need to do a push, a marketing push, but when they come in, then they've got tools to use.
Okay, so maybe with this can be somehow connected another question, but let's say it will be the last question in AROS, maybe official. Then we can talk about other topics. But from my point of view, I think with the AROS, it looks like that there is no one guy in charge. And everything is chaotic. I understand the open source soul, but don't you think maybe something like foundation, or you know what I mean? That this is the guy
I proposed the AROS Foundation. I had the domain of it, and I have a reasonably good presence in the community. I mean, I've been away for a while, to be a few years, but I'm reasonable. But it was an instant no. So, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, I totally do understand, and I think that would be useful. But then all you might end up with is the same old politics.
Okay.
Whereas you don't have that now. Now, at the moment, everyone in the community talks. Everyone in the AROS community talks. There's no problems. There's no issues. There's nothing like that. Everyone works together, and it's fine. I think if you put someone in charge, politics would come in. So there is negative. You see this in the Linux community.
Yeah, true.
You get these personality problems because people can't think beyond themselves. So. I proposed it, and I wasn't even putting myself on. I said I would set it up, and then they could vote on it. But there wasn't, so I just concentrate on supporting developers, doing the videos, get the message out, talk to guys like yourself. I find that's just. But you are right; it can be a bit chaotic. But I think what we need is an Amiga Foundation,
or something maybe like that. Yeah.
Everybody works together, and I'll bang on about this till I drop dead.
I think this can be only possible if the new guy will come and buy everything and do it from
Oh, that'd be
scratch,
fantastic. Oh God, yeah, if someone did that. I talked to Trevor about that once, and as he said, if it was about money, he would have bought it. It wasn't.
Yeah, but this is, I know that this is not so easy. But maybe let's talk now maybe about classic Amiga again to make the AROS. I think more or less we know something about this, and as I said, there's great YouTube channel that's yours that you can touch the AROS and then maybe try at home. But you show on this channel as well the video toaster options. As you said, you are a big fan, and you say the Amiga 3000 is the best Amiga in your opinion, as I understand, or not?
Yeah. Well, people have to understand is first of all, I said before, I don't play games. And also I came in as soon as the 500 was launched because I could afford it. So to me, as I said before, there was only one Amiga, and it was called the Amiga 1000. Okay, that was the Amiga, and to this day, it's still the Amiga. Now, they improved on it; it evolved over time. But to me, the 2000 is just a 1000 with slots.
Yep.
It's a fine machine, but it's a 1000 with slots. The 500 is a cost-reduced 1000. They're all pretty much the same thing. The 3000 was different. It was an evolution, but it was an evolution done well. They did a new chipset. I mean, it didn't look like many changes, but there were some fundamental changes. But they addressed all the problems with the original one. They put 32-bit processor, which of course caused incompatibility, but that was fine. They put on a 32-bit full 32-bit bus. The chips and everything were on a 32-bit bus, so everything performed really fast. They put a SCSI controller in it. Okay, not that cheap-ass IDE thing they put in the 4000. They put a SCSI controller in it. They put the flicker fixer in it. So basically that was a workstation class Amiga, and it was pretty. I mean, even the case itself was pretty. I never thought I'd ever say that. I mean, I love my 1000, but I think the 3000 is gorgeous. It really is a lovely computer. So to me, they were the two best, period. The two best Amigas, in my opinion, is the 1000 and the 3000. Now, the rest of them, I know a lot of people will say about, well, what about the 4000? Well, the 4000. The 4000 was made cheap, cost reduced. It was basically a 3000 with two more bit planes, okay? But they chucked out the SCSI, which was really fast, and then they put in an IDE drive. Now, that's fine. The IDE drives are good and they work, but it's not like SCSI. SCSI is way better. It's a bit more expensive, and that would have cost them another $5 or something. But so they cut corners there. I don't think the case is particularly good looking, but that's beside the point. As for a computer, to me, it was a letdown. I still believe they should have had 24-bit graphics, proper 24-bit. Like if you put a graphics card in it, it should have had something like that built into it, a graphics mode, and the AGA keep that. But the fact you could plug it, don't get me wrong, you could plug in a 24-bit graphics card, 16-bit card, so you can plug them all in. But it wasn't much of a step up for me from the 3000. So it was a nice machine, but it could have been so much more. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people will hate me for saying that because everyone thinks that the 1200 and the 4000 were fantastic. But they weren't groundbreaking. The 1000 was, to be honest, the only groundbreaking Amiga there ever was the 1000. Cool. I mean, the rest of them were just an evolution. My 3000, I love because I've always wanted a video toaster ever since I was in the business, but we couldn't have it because NTSC. We all know the story, and I've never had one. And then I bought a 2000 to just to put a video toaster in it, and I couldn't get the thing to work. I couldn't get it to work. The timings, I blew up a 2000 motherboard trying to mess around with it and get it going. I had to get another one, and in the end, I thought, how about if I plug it into my 3000? This is just for a laugh. So I took 3000 apart, I plugged it in, it worked. It just worked because I just switched it. There's a switch on the motherboard, okay, NTSC mode. And it just worked. Really? So then I had to cut the back. If you've seen the pictures, I had to cut the back of the case, a little bit out of the case, to make an adapter, and it fits beautifully, right? And so that is now all that does. That 3000 is it's my video toaster machine, and I got two Sony NTSC monitors. I've bought 2 NTSC cameras. I've got just so I've got a video toaster. And do I use it? No, I'm going to do a video at some point of it, just to show it off. I did use it on a stream once, and I might actually use it again on a stream. Yeah, really impressive. Because you can use it and put in the video. I even did it. I think I was going to do it in a virtual reality thing. Yep. But you can use it and just run it into your PC stream card and use it as a video source. It's brilliant. So, my favourite Amiga is my 1000. I do love my 3000. So they're the two key ones for me. I've always told my family that apart from the kids, if my house was on fire and my family was safe, the only thing I would go and save is my 1000. That's got to come out. I've got to save it. So because I've had that for nearly 30 years. So and I first Amiga. Yeah. But that 1000 is amazing now because I bought one of those HCA 500 plus, the 500 plus cards, and Jen's, no, you can't do that. You mustn't do that. Oh, shut up. Slapped in, worked perfectly. Okay, so I've actually got that plugged in the side in an old. I had a broken 1010 floppy drive. Now I upset a few people, but the drive was buggered. But I had the case, so I made a couple of little mods. And I put it inside there with a 6820 accelerator card running at 50 megahertz. So that little 1000 flies. It's about 1.5 times the speed of a 3000. It's just brilliant. But do I put a vampire in it?
Oh, so
no, right. So I can't bring myself to do it yet because it's my 1000. Now many years ago. Do you remember the GBA 1000 Phoenix board? Yeah. So I bought one and I took my 1000 board out and I put the Phoenix in and it was brilliant for about 3 days. I couldn't do it. I had to take it out and put my 1000 motherboard back in. It's the motherboard, you know. So
I understand.
So classic. But what frustrates me is people who put the Amiga in a glass cage and say, "Don't touch it. Don't touch it." Whereas I'm different. If all I had was the 1000, there'd be a vampire in it. Vampire, no problem at all. But because I've got a 2000, I've got other machines. I like to leave my 1000 because my 1000 has got a 6820. It runs really well. I go on the internet with it. I browse the web with it. Admittedly, I have to turn the images off and bits and pieces like that. But I use it for Aminet and I use it for Amiga World and those kind of basic stuff. I can type scripts on it. I can play my demo because I love. We haven't talked about demos, and I love demos, the Amiga demos. So I love the demo scene. So I've got all that. But you know, as I've said in the past, back in time. If someone said, I've got this card and you can put it in your 2000, okay, and it will make it 50 times faster, okay, but it'll be using and explain what it was, an FPGA technology, and that everyone would have gone, yeah, where do we buy it?
I already heard that it could, let's say 20 years ago, it could save the Amiga somehow.
Oh, absolutely right. And they can do it now because my thing with the vampire is this: is I've made my views very, very clear on this. And as a classic fan, as long as if I want to use my chipset, my sound and my graphics modes on a separate monitor. If I want to do that, I want to be able to do that. The rest of the time, I just use RTG. I do that on my 2000. I never use Amiga modes. I always use the 24-bit graphics card. But if I want to run an old demo, which I've got some great old demos for it, and I want to run D-Paint on an Amiga screen, I want to be able to do that. Then no one can turn around to me as well and say, yeah, but it's not an Amiga one. Oh, well, hang on a second, I'll run this up. What's this then, you idiot?
Yeah.
Right. If they turn that off, like when you go to the Vampire 4, it's different. But if you're putting it into an Amiga to accelerate the Amiga, then as long as the chipset is still usable, because I play my MP3s through my Paula. I just use the AHI 14-bit, 28 kilohertz or whatever it is. And my hearing's pretty poor anyway, it's good, but I can't hear that. And to me, it sounds no different to my normal system, and it's running 8-bit. So I've got so much stuff here. I've got my phone, I've got my computer. I want to play it on my Amiga, so it's just because I want to. I love my classics, but I don't like it when people say you've got to put it in a glass jar and don't mess with it, because I think they could just shut up. Enjoy your machine, do what you want to do with it. Let us, if we want to expand it, want to improve it. I mean, I probably will put a Vampire in my 1000. That's the truth. I probably will put it in there eventually. And then I'll have a 30-year-old computer that I can browse the web, okay, and I can do all modern, within reason, pretty modern stuff on a really good display on a nice modern monitor, and that thing's over 30 years old.
Yeah, true.
And I can still do it. And I can then I can run D-Paint in an Amiga screen on a second monitor, and that's using the chipset. So as long as I can do that, I'm happy.
Okay.
As for games, well, you don't need a Vampire for games.
I hope when the FPU will come, I hope, because I'm the Lightwave fan. So
yeah,
without FPU, it's not so nice. So I hope the FPU can open the Vampire for new games. There's already open it for some ports, but for some others you need FPU. Yeah. So
here's an interesting point now. And again, I'm not a games player, but I run them up to see what the hardware runs like. Try running Quake in Shapeshifter in the Macintosh emulator on the Vampire graphics card. It flies because it's bypassed the Amiga bitplane system. Mm-hmm. And it's running on that hardware. It is actually really good. It's like, oh God, this is really fast, proper fast, 30 frames a second. So, yeah, I mean, the potential is massive with the Vampire. If people start using it, I actually think if they were clever, they would go to the AROS library and they would nick the OpenGL code and then make it work and try and work something into the Vampire, give it some acceleration.
Yeah, but I think that the problem is, again, with the Vampire stuff, the lack of developers, because this is the problem that...
Same everywhere.
Yeah. So this is I already read some topics on the forum that people expecting the Firefox or something. It will never happen, yeah, because it's first not possible. Second, who will write it? Yeah, the problem is for NG system the same to bring the modern browser and so on. So, but I hope it will be better.
But yeah, I mean, I love my classic machines, but I like to have them as they were. I like to have them, see what's possible with them. I like to accelerate them, and I like to. I've always done this. I've always, even when I was in business. I mean, the PTI Amiga card, even though it didn't come. I mean, there's a story with that one, but even though that didn't come out, it would have been so fast, crazy fast. because by the time we got it with the 6860, using the stupid performance of the PCI bus to the graphics card, my God, that would have flown. That would have been amazing back then. And I think if that had happened, I think Amiga would have. If it actually happened, Amiga would be x86, because I would have been involved in it, because I was hoping to be involved in the Amiga company as well, the newly formed one. I would have pushed, and I would have said x86. There's no sensible reason not to go to x86. I know it was a wrench, but I believe they took the easy route. Some people say, and I do understand this, the PowerPC is a more elegant chip. I know that's true in design, but I don't care. If you're going to have a race on a motorbike, you don't care if it's pretty. You want the fastest engine.
Yeah, true.
So it's brute force and ignorance, and so the x86 it's a rubbish art, but it's fast. And it was all going to be x86. It was obvious. I don't understand why there was I was surprised actually, because then after the gateway thing, I disappeared, came back, and I went, PowerPC, you're kidding, right? Really?
Yeah, my friends, when I say something about this new Amigas, they are asking me what processor it's, and PowerPC is the same. How? It's not possible. Eh? But I think this is, as I understand, it was made to, let's say, to continue the line. And the first Amiga guys hate Intel processor, and the second, the emulation or the running of the old software is easier, because you don't use in theory you don't use emulation like in AROS. In AROS is quite well made with this. This is called Janus, I think, or Janus or whatever.
Yeah, it's just another UAE. That's all it is.
But you can run the software I was running in the Windows. So basically,
it's a bit rubbish. I don't like it. It does work. I don't like it. I never use that. It does work, but I never use it. I always open up an Amiga screen. Yeah, because it's faster. It's a lot faster.
Okay.
So if you just open up another screen and be done with it.
But basically, I think we don't use this backward compatibility to old software.
Yeah.
Mostly. And I think you are AROS user, and basically probably you use rather modern software than the old one, yeah?
I mean, I've got Amigas as well, so...
Yeah, but on AROS, I'm talking about...
I mean, I have a really good setup on my Amiga 68K system. I have a good one. And I have everything I want on there. So, and I have like Lightwave running on it in nice big display and all kinds of stuff. So, but I have a ton of power as well. Going back to the PowerPC, they took the easy route because the PowerPC was going to be a lot easier to move to. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's true. It was going to be a lot easier to move to. But my idea was, if it had happened that the PCI Amiga card having a 68K processor on board gives you 68K processing, you instantly can use the host operating system for the device drivers, which I would have hoped at some point probably might have even gone over to Linux, but not then. Obviously, it wasn't around. But you would then, over time, cross the hurdles, and they are big hurdles because of the big endian, little endian stuff. Which so the PowerPC was the easy route. They took the easy route, same as Apple did. But even Apple, they looked and went, "We just can't keep doing this. Is stupid. We've got to go to Intel." And I know people say, "I hate Intel." It's a chip.
Yeah.
It's just a chip. Who cares? It's just a processor chip. You know, why are people getting so passionate? You know, so it's the devil. No, it's not. It's thousands of people worked really hard to build the fastest chip on the planet, which is now NVIDIA, right? But that's my point. It's got Intel. Oh, so what? Yeah, because you got AMD. We could have gone AMD, same thing, but But no, so yeah, they took the easy route, and I think they took the wrong route. I mean, that's just my opinion. And I was around then. I nothing to do with me, but had Gateway not been out just to get the patents, which it turns out they were, and they were serious. Which when me and Mick and Paul met them, they were very serious in the discussions, and I thought they were really good, but they were just after the patent stripping. So that was a bit of a shame, but the world is different now.
When I was talking with the Jim from Gateway, I think this was maybe good plan to let's say to save the Amiga or somehow Amiga, because or to bring it to the mainstream again from the business point of view.
Yeah, I mean it was, but as I said, I left the community straight after that, and I disappeared for 10 years because, well, basically it broke my marriage. Everything went to bits, and I still loved the Amiga, but well, interestingly, a little story is, do you remember Power Computing?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember Tony Ianieri? He owned the company.
No.
Okay.
But Power Computing, I know this was in UK, yeah, I think.
Yeah. He an Italian family run it, and I knew him quite well. And I saw him one day at one of the shows, and he gave me the best bit of advice anyone's ever done. And he said, "Pack it up, go and get a job," because he knew I was a nutter. I was just, I couldn't. All I could see was I wanted I wanted the Amiga to be great, and unfortunately it just all fell apart. But I took his advice, went and got a job, and I haven't looked back. It's been absolutely fantastic. So now I'm back and I do stuff, but it's a hobby.
Yeah, probably it will be always like this, because it's too small to be something more, and it's rather not.
Having said that, I have a gut feeling that my case will sell. I think I can sell 500 cases to the Amiga community, but I think I can sell 10,000 to the retro fan PC community.
Maybe true. Yeah.
Now, by doing, I mean, I don't know, but I'm just guessing. But I think it can sell, because I think there's nothing like it that I can see. And I build computers; they're all towers nowadays, nearly. Yep. There's no real retro kind of thing. And I think a lot of people went to Linux and Windows who loved their Amigas, and if they can have a PC that looks like the 3000, which most of them know, and they can run the latest hardware in it, and it comes with a great emulator. I'm hoping to bundle something like Amiga Forever, or maybe, who knows, maybe do something else. I don't know. If I can get a license, then I could just include. I'd like to include the Hyperion one, because they own the operating system. Maybe do something there, but whatever happens to it, and have that, and then they can have it for fun,
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But my point was going to be actually that I think a lot of them go to like the Linux people who like building computers, and then they go, "Oh man, the Amiga was fantastic. Is it still alive?" And then maybe they could come in that way, come in that way as well. That's why I was trying with this thing to get the Raspberry Pi, because of all the developers.
Yeah, I think this is the really could be great option, but life is not so easy.
No.
Okay, I think we can start to finish. It's over 2 hours. But you showed again the Raspberry Pi. So my question will be, for example, the first Amiga for start. What you can advise? Raspberry Pi, for example, or
so you haven't got a computer,
or yes, let's say I want to back, or I want to enter the
community. Okay, so first of all, if you've got a fast PC, there's the emulation route, because a lot of people have said that in the videos. Well, we just run an emulator. Well, that's very, very true. The only thing with an emulator is, the one thing that's really good about this, if you've got an old monitor, like a composite monitor or something like that, you can plug this into a composite monitor. You get a real good experience with a like an old CRT, like 14-inch, if you've got something like that, you plug that in composite, it works really well. Really nice, and it really looks, because I was really shocked. I did this one in the video. I did a section. I went, and now I'm going to show you how you can tell the emulation is not as good as the real thing. Now, if you watch this demo, right, and the idea was on the Amiga, it's perfectly smooth, the text going across, but on emulation, it's like that, isn't it? Right, It judders. And I put it, and I went, oh Christ, that's actually really good. And it was running through the composite, was running really well. And it did actually do that very nicely. It was really nicely well tuned. And I know they've done an upgrade for this as well. So if you want to come in and if you've got a Pi you're laughing, that's a fantastic way of getting it in. Now, that's a very low cost way of getting. I personally think, to be honest, Amiga Forever is fantastic, but there's nothing quite like having something like that. And the other thing is, because you can plug it in, you can run an Amiga, you can run Linux, you can run what you like. And also the other thing you can do is, I've run 1080p videos from it on the same device. Go downstairs, plug it in the TV, run it, take it upstairs, put it into monitor upstairs, run it. Go to my mate's house, or if you're going to go to your mate's house, plug it into his computer, into his screen, run it. You've got an Amiga everywhere. Take it to a demo, whatever. These are fantastic. That's a great way to get in. Now, once you're hooked, oh my God, then you want me to then say where to go next?
Yeah.
God, buy the real thing. If you want to, you can buy 500s quite cheap. They are starting to get a bit more expensive, but oh God, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I would say probably if you can get one, probably you'd get a 1200, because they are quite expensive, to be honest, but yes, they are actually quite nice. Again, you've got the AGA, but you can run most things on a 1200 if you can get one at a reasonable price, or buy a 500 and put a vampire in it.
True. And as I heard, the 500 and 2000, probably 1000, they are the most robust Amigas, so they are all technology. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, what they did with the 1200 with those capacitors, I mean, oh my God, who thought they were going to be using them 20 years, 25 years down the road, to be fair? But, no one expected that. So we have to replace them all. But on the Amigas, as you said, apart from the Varta battery.
Yeah, another thing.
They are tough as... My 1000 of me was in the garage for 10 years, in the damp garage in a box. I took it out, turned it on, switched it on, booted straight off. It did need cleaning. I had to clean all the insects out from the inside, but and the cobwebs. But no, that just boots straight up, and she sits over there. Look, she just looks fantastic. I took her apart, scrubbed her. I haven't retrobrighted her because I think it doesn't hurt her. She looks aged. But yeah, I mean, 1000s now are getting quite expensive.
Of course.
Yeah, 2000s are very cheap. Funnily enough, 2000s are quite cheap. The keyboard for the 2000s more than the 2000.
Yeah, but the 2000 I have as well, so this is the good option to start, and the expansions are, let's say, cheap. Somehow cheap. Yeah.
Stick a vampire on it.
Yeah, or just do it. And
who can afford an 060? I got an 060, and I got I bought an 060. I got it for £150 from a eBay site, and I Snap got it. Yeah. And I bought a Picasso 4 for £150 from the same company. Snap got it. I then sold the Picasso for £400, and then I used the accelerator. Although the SCSI card didn't work, but the accelerator was fine, and I used that for ages. But in the end, I sold it because I wanted to fund some AROS stuff. So I sold a load of it, knowing I was going to buy Vampire. And I sold the bits out of it. I made £1,000 for the accelerator card, the graphics card, and a couple of other. Oh, and I sold VLAB Motion and a couple of other bits. Anyway, made £1,000, and I bought £300 Vampire and replaced the lot.
Yeah, and it's new. This is another.
And it's got a graphics card, and it's a fast graphics card. No graphics card out there in the Amiga market can beat the Vampire.
This is true. Compared to
It's
this,
crazy. Yeah,
it's native. Good. I think. I hope this was the nice.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I do waffle too much. But it's not. I mean, and there is other stuff I'll maybe tell another day. But hopefully, when Dave Pleasance brings his book out, because he said he's going to put the story for the 1500 in it, which I've given a good. He spoke to the guy I met at Commodore, and because he was going to put some absolute rubbish story, absolute rubbish, and I said, "Do you want the truth?" So I sent him the truth, which that thing I sent you, and I didn't know anything about that. I wasn't around. So he got in touch with Kieran, and then Kieran didn't deny it. Mm-hmm. He said, well, maybe, I don't remember. So he's going to put my version of the story in there just for people to know that, Commodore can be silly at times.
Yeah,
I'll put it nicely.
I hope this will be the nice book, because I think everybody are waiting for
I'm looking forward to
alternative version of the story, and maybe he can put more light. What happened and why. Most of us probably know more or less, but not from the, let's say, first hand. No,
that's true. We will see. But Dave is a lovely bloke, actually. I think I met him once, but I didn't have many dealings with him at the time because he'd gone to Switzerland. But he's actually a really nice man.
Yeah, at the end of all, every Amiga guy is nice.
They are lovely. The nutters. Well, you've got to be a bit nuts to do this stuff, but I've kept out the loony bin. 30 years later, they haven't put me in a loony bin yet. So
good. Okay, so I think I don't know if you want to add something, maybe, or I miss something. Probably I miss a lot, but.
There is a load of other stuff, but I can't think of anything offhand. I mean, maybe we'll talk about the case, and maybe I suppose. Let me cover one little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Every now and then, I bring this story up and apologise. Okay, so the PCI Amiga card. It's always weighed on me that. When when we was doing that product, Gateway had given us thousands of pounds as part of a letter of intent, which I thought was a contract, but it was different. And I thought, it's fantastic. We're going to make these. The software was ready. The hardware was just about to be done. And so I put out that people put deposits for it. And I took about 20 deposits. And then I suddenly realised things weren't going right. I stopped taking them. And then Gateway pulled the plug. The company went pear-shaped. I had to liquidate the company. I didn't get any money, but it went to debts. So there was over time I've paid back, I think, about 10 people. So there's probably about 10 people out there that paid £50, didn't get anything. So as I always said, and I've done this a few times, if you was one of those people that did put a deposit down, get in touch, okay? We'll have a chat about it as long as it's legit. Because if it always says, I put deposit, I'm gonna have to check it out. But I'll refund the money plus interest, But I just need to find. It's just for my own peace of mind, because I'm going to do this again. And when I launch the Kickstarter, I'm going to make this perfectly clear. This did happen, and it really weighs heavy. But as I said, I lost way more than a deposit, but it's just something. I took people's money and I feel really bad about it. But yeah, so I've made this offer for the last 5-10 years since I came back into AROS, and I've always said it. If you were one of them people, get in touch, and I have refund. And as they turn up, and it's most people don't care. A couple of them just said, "No, I don't care." I said, I said, "Well, let me do something." They said, No, it's all right. But I've always said, So if anyone's out there, and more, just probably fine. I'd give them if they definitely were one of the people that gave the deposit, I'll give them a free case. But they probably won't be involved in it anyway. They won't have an Amiga. But if they are, I'll do something like that. I mentioned makeup. I've got to make up. I know over time I'm tracking them down.
Okay. Well,
but they're scattered like the wind.
Great. And when we talk about the money, how is again about the AROS? How is looking this bounty side? Because or generally financial stuff? Because you said you
I don't use
put some money, your money, and the community of AROS is willing to.
No, I don't. I have put money into bounties, but only when I know it's being worked on. But I've always gone direct. But then I mean, here's the thing. What I've just mentioned about the card, it was about £1,500 that people, all of them, donated. Mm-hmm. And I kind of, when I did the thing, I worked on that, and I went, right, I owe the community that money. And so it was mostly just in good faith, but also it was a kind of a pay back the money. And I put about 3 or 4 grand in development. So, to me, it's find a developer, find what they want, buy it for them. That's better than, because if people put money into the bounty, I'm not saying the bounty system's a brilliant idea, mm-hmm. but the trouble is people set a bounty up without having it all planned, without a developer's going to do the work. And then it just sits there and the money just sits there. You can always get your money back, but the money just sits there and it's never used. Now, and you can't transfer it. So I'm more of a, we don't want to charge for it, but it's kind of, if we have more developers, I'd like a fund that buys kit, if that makes sense. Developer comes in, there's a fund. What do you need? If you're going to do something, Trevor's done this with Amiga OS. Developers come in and he supplies them with kit, and I tried to do the same thing with AROS. And, to a degree, I also spent money. I spent a couple of thousand literally on Michael and the AHI, David Wensler, to get that done because it was really important. And I've got something else going on similar. So, no, I'm not. I have contributed to the bounties, but I not much. I tend to go direct. Oh, and then my cat's jumped up. Look,
hello. Really nice one.
Yeah. We got her in France. She was a stray and she was nearly dead. We brought her back from France, so she's a little French girl. She tries to walk all over my computers.
Oh yeah, I have the cat here as well. So, but now sleeping
behind you.
Yeah, it's not attacking. He loves to visit keyboard. Especially when you are doing something.
Yeah. She purrs really loud as well. She's not started yet.
Okay, good. So I think it's enough. We can finish. So the last moment, the last thing, the gratings. Do you want to say something to our great community or to some people, and then we can say good night?
I'm glad you're still around. I'm really glad that people still love the Amiga. To say my Amiga's a passion to me is an understatement. It got, but as I said, now it's a hobby. But it's lovely that I love the fact people get so much fun out of it. I know a lot of them play games, but whatever you want to do with the Amiga, just if you enjoy it, it's just wonderful that people are still here. I would like the people to appreciate the developers more. And a lot of people, don't get me wrong, a lot of people do, and they there's a lot on the forums, people being very supportive, and but we need to remember the developers are very, very important to us, and they're the most important part because there's no future without them. So and we wouldn't be where we are without them. And there's the other thing I suppose is, and I've said this before, but we are a big community with pretty much 4 camps. And there are issues we need to resolve, and we need to. If we could all work together, believe me that it would transform this little community that we've got. We're never going to be massive. We're always going to be a small community. But Linux started it out just as one guy said, "Can someone help?" And he didn't have any history. And look what it is now. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get there, but if we can solve some of these little problems and people can, get over the they can just get over themselves.
Yeah.
And we can just all work together and just sort the issues. There's a number of issues, but we have this fantastic community. And as you said a minute ago, Amiga people, apart from being a bit nuts, Amiga people are lovely. They're some of the nicest people you can meet. They really are. And every time I've met them, I meet them. I actually do all the shows, and they're just so nice. So I absolutely love the Amiga people. That's why when I get the case done, I'm going to do a show. Hopefully there'll be the big Germany show. Hopefully they're going to do it again next year, because I'll probably go to that if I can get the case. Then because I love shows. I absolutely love shows. But it'd be really nice to actually go along and show a new product, which I haven't done for 25 years.
Okay, but I think on YouTube you will be as well showing or still active on your, because you have really
you're never going to get rid of me. I'm always going to be making these rubbish videos. I'm going to carry on doing that because but I know it's for me. I'm just showing off my kit. I do like to promote AROS, I really do, but I also like to promote the Amiga itself, and also it's a respect thing to the people, the original developers. Keep it going. I never got to meet the main people. Although I was around quite early. I've met Tim Jennison and all that lot, and talked recently, saying I've met all that lot because I went out to the States, but I've not even met Dave Haley face to face, and I never met them, but it's nice to keep this still going. If you talk to them, they'd probably say, I can't believe he's still around.
Yeah,
but
true.
People do they're still doing great things with Amigas, especially the demo guys. Keep it up. Yeah. I love them demos. They are amazing. But yeah, thanks for getting this far and putting up with me waffling.
Oh yeah. Just playing. Good. Okay, so I can officially say now thank you very much. It was very interesting. I hope the AROS will be more now like it by the guys or something, or maybe somebody will try.
It'll be around. It'll be continue to be developed.
Yeah, and I hope we will see us in, I don't know, in Germany or in some show somewhere.
Yeah, I hope so.
Maybe
if the case gets to market, I'll be there.
Okay, good. So, till next time, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
It was AMIcast, podcast for all Amiga users.